Okay, we're going to discuss the idea of something called feedback inhibition and then the endocrine system, focusing mostly on the pancreas and glycogen and insulin, these two hormones. Okay, so just to kind of go brief over again, homeostasis, because this is a plays kind of big in this section. Again, your body's constantly trying to maintain some sort of controlled, stable internal environment, despite any sort of changes that are happening internally or in the external environments. So the stable environment is called homeostasis, which means like similar standing or like to remain the same. So this what feedback inhibition is. The systems of the body work to keep internal conditions within a certain range, never allowing them to go too far one way or the other. So that's going to, this idea of feedback inhibition is going to work with that. So an example of like in your house, what feedback inhibition is so you have a furnace, a home heating system uses a feedback loop to maintain a stable, comfortable environment within a house. So when the temperature within the house drops below set point that like your parents set on their thermostat, so let's say if it falls below like 68 degrees, a thermostat sensor switches the furnace on. So when the temperature rises above the set point, so like maybe it gets to 70, the thermostat switches the furnace off, keeping the temperature within a narrow range. So feedback inhibition, or also known as negative feedback, is a process in which a stimulus produces a response that opposes the original stimulus. So for example, when the furnace is switched on, it produces heat. Okay, so the room temperature increases. That changes the environment of the house by raising the air temperature. So this environmental change then feeds back or to inhibit the operation of the furnace. So once you reach that set temperature you wanted, the furnace will turn itself off. So then the temperature can then decrease back to like, for example, 70. So here maybe the temperature drops to 68, so the furnace gets on. Temperature raises to like 72, so then it's going to turn off, so it can go back to 70, and then maybe dips back down to 68 and turns back on. So an example in your body, the body regulates its temperature by a mechanism that's similar to that of the like furnace in your house. A part of the brain called the hypothalamus contains nerve cells that monitor both the temperature of your skin at the surface and of the body and the temperature of the organs in your core. So if the nerve cells sense that a core temperature is dropped below 37 degrees Celsius, which that's probably around like 98 degrees, the hypothalamus produces chemicals that signal the cells throughout the body to speed up their activities. So again, that's going to help increase your body temperature. So heat produced by this increase in activity causes a gradual rise in your body temperature, which is detected by the nerve cells in your hypothalamus. So here you're cold, your activities in your cells are going to increase to help increase your temperature in your body. So if your body temperature drops well below its normal range, the hypothalamus releases chemicals that signal muscles just below the surface of the skin to contract involuntarily, or which is known as to shiver. So that's when you start to shiver to kind of help build up some heat in your body. These muscle contractions release heat, which helps the body temperature to rise towards the normal range. If your body temperature drops well below its normal range, then, wait, that's the same, never mind, whoops, that was a copy of the same thing. Keep on going. So then if your temperature rises too far, above like 98 degrees Fahrenheit, the hypothalamus slows down cellular activities to reduce heat production. So this is one of the reasons why you may feel tired and sluggish on a hot day, so you're slowing down. The body also responds to high temperatures by producing sweat, which helps cool down the body's surface by evaporation. So warm environment, exercise causes the body temperature to increase, so you're signaling like a sweating, cooling mechanism to cool down your body temperature. Okay, so now getting on to endocrine system, to get just kind of an idea of what the endocrine system involves. So think about if you had to get a message to like one or two friends, well, you would probably just text them, call them directly, talk to them directly, and tell them your message. But if you wanted to send a message to like thousands of people, that's when maybe you would send like a tweet, so then your message could be received by everyone who has you on their list, and then they can maybe even retweet it to their friends. So cells actually send messages too, and they can do like a direct call, or they can send out like a tweet to the like whole rest of your body. So This has to do with hormones. So your endocrine system is involved in sending hormones throughout your body. So the endocrine system is made up of glands that release hormones into the blood. Hormones deliver messages throughout the body. The endocrine system is kind of like, again, like the tweet. You're broadcasting a chemical message to the whole part of your body. These chemicals are called hormones. They're released in one part of the body, travel throughout the blood, and then affect cells in other parts of the body. So hormones can affect almost every cell in the body. Hormones act by binding to a specific chemical receptor on cell membranes or within the cell. So some cells have binding sites for specific hormones while other cells don't, so those hormones won't affect those cells. So cells that have receptors for a particular hormone are called target cells, so they're being targeted by the hormone. If a cell does not have the receptor for a particular hormone, that hormone has no effect on it. So it's almost like someone doesn't have you on they didn't like subscribe to your Twitter account, so they don't hear your message, while the other people on your Twitter account, your list, would receive your message. In general, the body's responses to hormones are slower and longer lasting than its responses to nerve impulses, which we'll learn next week. So it could take like several minutes for a message to be received, or several hours, or even several days for hormones to have its full effect on its target cells. So the ones that we're going to focus on for the endocrine system is glucagon and insulin. So many endocrine functions depend on the effects of two opposing hormones, such as shown. So glucagon and insulin kind of counteract each other. So we're going to see that in a bit. So the hormone insulin prompts the liver to convert blood glucose to glycogen and store it. So like you just ate you ate some food, you had lunch. So food intake increases your blood glucose level. So the glucose level in your blood increases. So then insulin is released by the pancreas in response to this higher blood glucose level. And insulin helps promote glucose uptake by your cells. So your cells are going to be now taking up the blood glucose that's now in, or the glucose that's in your blood. Okay, so from your food, you digested your food and you released glucose in your blood. So now you have all this glucose in your blood. So insulin helps cells get that glucose into their cells to do their cellular respiration or metabolic functions. So you had lunch, you're kind of sitting around, you haven't eaten in a while, so then between meals your blood glucose level drops. So then here's when glucagon prompts the liver to convert glycogen to glucose and release it into the blood. So you haven't eaten in a while, so your sugar level, your glucose level in your blood drops, and you may start to kind of feel tired here. So then now your pancreas is signaled to release glucagon, which helps break down glycogen so it can release glucose back into your blood. So glucagon helps break down this glycogen molecule into glucose, so then glucose can get into your blood, so then it can be circulated to your cells that need glucose. So the opposing effects maintain homeostasis by keeping blood glucose levels in a narrow range. So insulin helps decrease blood glucose levels, and then glucagon helps increase the blood glucose levels, so then you're at a normal range of your blood sugar that's in your system. Okay, just to show you an animation here, here we have, after a high carbohydrate lunch, like a plate of spaghetti, polysaccharides are digested into the monosaccharides. Monosaccharides, such as glucose, are absorbed by the small intestine and released into the blood. So let's see this little animation. Okay, so here's glucose that you are absorbing. The pancreas will take note of this based on your blood glucose level. Increased levels of blood glucose signal the pancreas to secrete insulin into the bloodstream. So here your blood glucose level rises, so that signals your pancreas to release insulin. Insulin promotes the uptake of glucose by most cells of the body. Many cells, like muscle, burn glucose for their metabolic fuel. Fat cells in the adipose tissue use glucose to make fat. Liver cells convert glucose to glycogen and fat. So here, okay, insulin was released, so now body cells get the signal to take up glucose, which can be used for your fuel for cellular respiration or metabolic purposes. Insulin can go to adipose tissue like your fat tissue, and that's stored and signals to store that as fat. And then insulin tells liver cells to take up the glucose and store that as glycogen that we'll see will be used for later and for fat. As the afternoon passes, the cells continue to take up glucose and blood glucose levels decrease. So you haven't eaten in a while, your blood glucose, the sugar in your blood decreases. So here's your blood sugar level decreasing. By 6 o'clock, all the glucose from the spaghetti lunch has been absorbed and blood glucose levels have fallen further. Okay, so your blood sugar level is decreasing. You start kind of getting maybe tired. The low blood glucose puts a brake on insulin release from the pancreas. So now the pancreas stops releasing insulin, so a feedback inhibition here. Without a glucose supply, cells switch to using glycogen and fat as their fuels. The liver breaks down glycogen to glucose, so glycogen can now be used to supply glucose to your blood, and converts fat to fatty acids. Fat cells can convert fat to fatty acids, so you're more concerned about the glycogen going to glucose. Alright, so glycogen here can now be broken down to make glucose, so that can be released into your blood. You don't have to worry about the fat or fatty acids for our purposes. These fatty acids are used by other body cells as fuel in place of glucose. The glucose released from the liver is reserved for more nerve cells which require constant supply. So that then the glucose, you're keeping a constant level of